Hey everybody, welcome into the Friday night final drive. I'm Francis Beck, joined by Joe Daniel. We're sponsored by Western New York Media Care and Howard Hanna. This Friday night, Mother Nature's thrown a wrench in our plans tonight. Some games being delayed. A couple games actually. One game we know of that has been officially postponed that we're going to wait on when they decide to put that game on for actually play it. But certainly Mother Nature playing a factor tonight. But we still have some most of these games are going on right now. We're still waiting for some scores. We got most of them. We have actually 3 games on the docket tonight. If you've been paying attention to us, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, 3 games live. Let me show you 2 of them just in a second here. We have Sweet Home and St. Joe's in a big non-league, private public battle, and then we have Southwestern at Allegheny Limestone as well. We're going to show you those screenshot of those 2 games in just a second here. Here we are. Here they are, top left of your screen. Sweet Home holds a 22-6 lead over St. Joe's, and then the bottom right you see Southwestern 17-6 over Allegheny Limestone with about 6. Both games in the third quarter right now as well. We do have official word though that the NT McKinley game has been called off due to lightning. No word yet in rescheduling. So Mother Nature takes out one game. We know they delayed the Clarence-Lancaster game. We think they delayed a few others. The Depew game, which is also on our air, was delayed a little bit. But Joe, why don't we get into the scores for tonight?
Yes, Francis, great to be with you again.
Not to overstep. I was talking for like 5 straight minutes.
Nice to see everyone again. I can't believe how fast this week went. I think we were just here last Friday night. But that's what happens when you work from home, Francis. So, weather has been crazy. I drove out to Hamburg tonight. We had our flag football practice, so shout out to the Glenn family who I was just texting, so hopefully you popped on. So we were out there tonight. Francis, the weather held off, but in a lot of areas in Buffalo it did not. And we've seen, the clouds and the rain and just the lightning has caused issues.
And we even had a tornado warning.
Yeah, it's just crazy when you're like in that little bubble, right? So we talk about the weather, right? So let's talk about the Amherst West Seneca West game. It's 21-0 with 3:37 left in the first half, and guess what? We're in a lightning delay, so that at least means 30 minutes. The Lancaster-Clarence game, that wasn't a lightning delay as well. So a lot of these scores, obviously, Francis, we're going a little later than normal with where they should be at this time of night because of the weather, and it's just something that they're going to have to deal with to get through the game. Hopefully, we've already seen a couple cancellations tonight. So we talked about the West Seneca West game. It's 21-0 at the half. We pull up the scoreboard here and get you some live updates here. So Maryville played Burgard at Highmark Stadium in one of their playoff games. We'll give you more information as that goes on. 13-6 Maryville tonight. Lancaster-Clarence, so that delay, Francis, 14-7. Lancaster in the lead. And a couple of other scores. Sweet Home, St. Joe's posting some live updates here tonight. It's 22-6. We'll get into that in a little bit as we go because we do have some information on that. West Seneca West up 21-0 Amherst. And then I did get a read over from St. Francis. They're out in Columbus tonight. They trailed 21-6 at half. And as we talked with Southwestern, 17-6 over Limestone. So, Francis, just some initial thoughts on those games.
Yeah, that Maryville-Burgard game is a game that I had my eye on quite a bit. They played it, of course, at Highmark, got off to an early start, 5 o'clock, and according to my calculations, and I trust them because they're mine and I know this rule book and everything, that was a battle for the 3 seed in the B North Division, so that means Maryville gets that spot, which means a little bit easier game. B is 2 divisions this year. 2 divisions this year, so they will likely take on the number 2 seed out of whoever comes out of B South, which is probably going to be West Seneca East. in most likely. But Maryvale gets the big win. That was one game I was keeping an eye on tonight.
Well, how about that game though? Because so Maryville wins 13-6. They were down 6-0 with 6 minutes to go. So to get that tying touchdown, to get the ball back, and just steal a win there, basically away from Burgard, because Burgard had been shutting them out, and that's quite an accomplishment to come back, don't you think?
Well, yeah, and these two teams have a huge history, a lot of back and forth. Emotions definitely run high. I would definitely call this a rivalry for sure that goes back several years. So I'm not surprised at all that you saw a close game and something where Burgard got the lead and Maryvale was able to come back in the end. This is for two teams that don't necessarily, are not right across from each other, this is pretty close to a rivalry.
I just want to go back to the St. Francis football game because they had tweeted some updates. We did know it was 21-6, and I'm going to have to look back at that. So I'll come back to that score. We'll just check on some other ones that we do have live updates. Randolph is playing East Aurora. Last update with them was 22-13. It was 21-6 at half with St. Francis trailing. They got off to a 6-0 lead with 2 field goals from Luke Nowak. But we talk about the Ohio teams. Francis just pulling away a little too strong. I mean, to hold St. Francis to 2 field goals with their running game, it looks like they're controlling the line, don't you think?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's tough to play those Ohio teams that, they play way more games down there, and the competition is much stronger there. I do give a lot of credit, though, to Coach Jerry Smith and his guys for taking his team down there and putting their best foot forward.
Well, did you see on their Twitter page, Coach Smith posted this, they went out to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And, Coach Smith, he treats his players right, as all coaches do. But what a day for them to see that, that could be a once-in-a-lifetime experience for some of those kids to see the history of the NFL and why they play football. It's a lot of positives, a great stop for them on their trip to Columbus. And then Southwestern, Allegheny Limestone, we are showing that game. It is 17-6. Allegheny Limestone was trailing 17-0 at half. They did get a score. And while we have it, because Francis, it's right in front of me, I can let you know, on Allegheny Limestone's touchdown, they recovered an onside kick to start the second half. They went 46 yards on a drive of 4:27, capped off by a 3-yard touchdown run by Kevin Edwards Hardy. And after a missed PAT, it was 17-6. Thoughts on that game as we're showing it?
It's Southwestern right now is fighting for their playoff lives. Remember, this is a team that just last year was in the sectional final against Medina, holding their own all the way. They had to travel all the way up to Medina. That was probably about 2.5 hour ride on the bus. But this year they're struggling. They've had a couple of losses, and the way C's playing out, they're fighting for right now the 7th or 8th seed in the C playoff. So they need to win, and they really could use some style points as well.
West Seneca West is home against Amherst. They are up 21-0 with the last update coming. And with that, Francis, I could tell you how they got to 21-0. It was after a turnover. Isaiah Simmons returned his second for an 80-yard TD. So it looks like he had an interception touchdown. So 21-0 West over Amherst. Thoughts on this game?
Two teams, I believe, are out of the playoff race, but they're fighting for pride right now. You have an Amherst team with Teddy McDuffie, who's certainly in the running to be a Connolly Cup finalist, and then you have a West Seneca West team who was right up in the thick of it for a while in that A South division. So pride on the line in this game.
It looks like Southwestern had just got a touchdown. They now lead 24-6, and let me update you on what happened here. All right, so Kennedy with the 7-yard quarterback keeper. PAT was good. 3:41 left in the third quarter. It's 24-6 Southwestern, I believe. Yes.
All right, and I just got an update on my phone. Halftime over in Depew with CSP leading Batavia 14-13. This game was very last minute. CSP was supposed to play Lackawanna. Lackawanna bailed out or wasn't able to play. So they got Batavia in kind of last minute. They play in Section 5. Keep in mind, Batavia plays in Class B. That's 2 classes ahead of CSP. And Batavia is one of the cream of the crops in Section 5. We hear them often. They show up in Far West Regionals to take on, our best team out of Section 6 in Class B. They've had some games against Cheektowaga during Cheektowaga's glory years, so this is a big matchup for CSP. If they can pull off this win, and this is not a down year for Batavia, they're 5-1, one of the best teams right now in their division in Rochester. So if CSP can pull off this one, I think they can give them a lot of confidence going into the playoffs.
Pioneer has scored, and it is 37-0 with 7:24 remaining in the second quarter. So Pioneer is playing Lake Shore tonight. They're just pulling away here late in the second half, or second quarter.
Yeah, Pioneer, we just pull up their division really quick. Yeah, they're a team fighting for a playoff spot. They should be able to get that 4th seed in B South. In B South. They should pretty much secure it with this win. So they're a team... usually we see them a bit higher up in the standings, but I'll say B South is a pretty tough division. They have Iroquois and West Seneca West right in there, as well as Olean, a very good team. So the Panthers are going to make it into the playoffs and see if they can, what they can do against whatever B North team they face.
So in a game like that, Francis, when it's 37-0, what does the coach tell their players just to keep them in it? It's a learning experience, don't you think?
Well, it's a learning experience. There's another thing to keep in mind that I think we always sometimes forget when we see these blowouts. 20 points is the key. When you talk about tiebreakers, one of the big tiebreakers is point differential in league games, but it only goes up to or down to 20. So if you win by 40, it only counts as a win by 20. If you lose by 20, if you lose by 40, it only counts as losing 20 points. So I always look at that margin. So you said 37 points. That's a pretty safe margin. Probably time to either experiment with things or get some other guys in as well. So I think we'll see that some second stringers coming for the Panthers.
Well, as you know, high school teams don't have a field of 60 players. Like the Bills, they put 53 guys out there. In a game, they could put your second stringers. A lot of these guys play both ways. There's not a lot of substitutions. Sometimes these teams don't have a lot of flexibility that way, don't you think?
Yes, some of the smaller schools struggle with that. But I think maybe what you find is they only have one quarterback, so the quarterback stays in with the second stringers.
And how much practice time do those second stringers get? Timing and stuff. So we'll go back to the scoreboard here. A lot of scores coming in nice and quick. Under the third quarter, Randolph is pulled away from East Aurora Holland 46-13. And we have an update here from St. Joe's and Sweet Home, which Sweet Home's home. And as you can see then on the WNMA Athletics page, it's 22-14 Sweet Home. And the Marauders recovered the onside kick and are back in business from the Sweet Home 48, trailing by 8. So that game's it's a good game to watch.
Watch this. We just put it up on our screen. And the Marauders, I believe, just ran in for a touchdown to start the fourth quarter. I don't see any flags on the screen. They're celebrating.
So they scored again, Francis?
Yeah, they just scored again, and I would bring the Marauders within a couple points pending a extra point or 2-point conversion. But yeah, big one out at Sweet Home. The Marauders trying to make a game of it.
Well, here's a 2-point conversion, trailing by 2. It's a direct snap, and there's a flag. So the Panthers stop them. It's a holding on St. Joe's and obviously negated. So Panthers still hold that 2-point lead after getting stopped on a 2-point conversion. But think about St. Joe striking quick, getting that touchdown, getting that onside kick. They're starting to get some momentum in this game. Plenty of time here, 11:50 remaining, very early in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that's great to see with the struggles that St. Joe's has went through, even going back to last season. Coach Corona's in. He's trying to make this program the right way. He's kind of been clear. It's going to take some time for this Marauders program to get back to where they once were. He's not trying to take any shortcuts with this. So, but if he can get a win here against Sweet Home, I think when most people probably thought the Panthers were gonna, not an easy win, but we're gonna come away with the victory because of the way Joe's has been playing. If Joe's can pull off this win, that's a huge win for their program.
So we'll definitely keep it on. I actually pulled it up on my Facebook page because last week, you were watching the games, Francis. You see everyone else sees it. I'm like just sitting here. Well, I want to see what's going on.
Well, you know what? You're actually a little bit ahead of what our screen is showing a little bit. So.
Well, how about that?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll keep it on that. How about this one? I'll keep it on that one. You keep it on the Southwestern game. Let's talk a little bit about that Southwestern Allegheny Limestone as I get an update. It's 24-6 here at the end of 3. In regards to their touchdown, we can report they recovered a fumble. This was the touchdown, I believe, for Limestone. Southwestern recovered a fumble at the Gators 18, and it was a touchdown run of 6 yards out to make it 24-6. Just an update there. End of 3. And still 21-0 Amherst over West Seneca West. Francis, what do you think about taking a quick timeout?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We'll take a quick timeout. We have a couple reporters out on the field tonight. See if we can get one of them to call in a few moments, and we'll have more tonight on what's going on. You're watching the Friday Night Final Drive right here on Western New York Athletics.
When it's time to sell your home, start with a visit to howardhanna.com, ranked the #1 real estate site for sellers. A few clicks will show you the sales price you can expect for your home. We can get you the most money in the quickest amount of time because we know where the local buyers are and how to reach them. So if it's time to sell your home, visit howardhanna.com today, and we'll match you with a local Howard Hanna agent to sell your home fast.
I love being home.
If you've been injured in an auto accident, large or small, call 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab right away. If you are in pain or just sore, don't take chances. Call RES today and take advantage of their 24 to 48-hour appointment pledge. With no copays, RES will help navigate the confusing world of no-fault insurance with you, so you can concentrate on getting better. 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab. The most important call you can make after an auto accident.
Avoiding care can lead to worse problems. Don't delay care. We're here for you. Western New York Immediate Care provides quick, quality care for non-emergent injuries and illnesses. Go to wnyImmediatecare.com for more information.
Does he do car?
Forget about it.
How about home?
Forget about it.
Does he get good rates?
Forget about it.
And you're saying there's no problem too big for this guy?
Forget about it.
All right, we're back on the Friday Night Final Drive. Joe's going to take a break and check our scoreboard out right now. We're going to check in with Tim Schieffa, who's at that Lancaster Clarence game, one of the games that's certainly been affected by this weather. Tim, what's been going on out there?
Yeah, kind of a hectic night, as you probably can expect, Francis. Game started about a half hour, 35 minutes late. Then with 9 minutes left in the second quarter, another 30-minute delay because of lightning. However, on the football field, when the games are being played, it's really been a great game, back and forth, which you kind of expected with this, this big of a game. Right now it's 14-7 Lancaster. So traded scores in the first quarter. Then Lancaster scored to go up 14-7. Players shooting themselves in the foot just a little bit. 2 drives ago, they were driving. They actually fumbled on the Lancaster 5-yard line into the end zone. Lancaster recovered, which was a touchback, obviously. Then on the next drive, Clarence is able to hold them to a 3-and-out. Clarence driving again on a 4th and 1, and they jumped off sides to make it a 4th and 6, which ended up punting. There's a minute 12 left in the second quarter, and Clarence now has the ball back at about midfield, 14-7 Lancaster.
Tim, before I let you go, I want to ask you one question. Scott Raymond, we nominated him as our Freak of the Week from Clarence. It sounds like the Legends defense is keeping him in check, though.
Yeah, it's a lot of different looks from Clarence. A lot in the first quarter, they're going that old school double wing type of offense, playing a different looks at it. But so far, Lancaster's done a really good job of team defense. But, it's only a one-score game. Both the teams are really good. Francis, they're both really fast. And I'd be shocked if it doesn't come down to the last couple of minutes in the final of the game.
All right, Tim. Well, thanks for calling in. We'll check in with you later tonight.
All right, buddy. See ya.
All right, that was Tim Schiffa, Western New York Athletics, calling in from that Lancaster Clarence game. We have the Legends up 14-7 as we bring Joe Daniel back into the fold. Joe, what have you been able to decipher or ask any updates since we were on the phone with Joe?
Just one quick update. Thanks to Braden Carmen for tweeting it out. We did have a touchdown in the Southwestern game versus Allegheny Limestone. I have never heard of Allegheny Limestone up until last week, by the way. So
it's down there.
It's down there. I can picture their colors, like green, right? Is there green in there?
Yeah, they're the Gabe. Yeah, Gabe.
Yeah. All right. So Gabe Ramadan keeps it himself with the quarterback keeper from 1 yard out for the score. 2-point conversion was no good. In the fourth quarter, it's 24-12. Southwestern still in the lead, but a little bit closer here for the Allegheny Southwestern game. And that's probably early in the fourth. No updates there, but I could tell you just watching the Sweet Home St. Joe's game, after St. Joe's scored, they missed a 2-point conversion. They are inside the 30 with a chance. I think they're at the 25. They're inside the 20 off a quick run. So Sweet Home is moving the ball, try to extend their lead here against St. Joe's.
Yeah, again, as I said, Sweet Home, this would be a big game for the Marauders if they can pull this off.
Something we can do right now, we can go over Week 6 stats as we enter Week 7. As Francis told me, there's only 2 weeks left, including tonight, and in a couple weeks, we're going to have the playoffs.
Well, I really quick before we get to that.
Yes, of course.
I think I'm considering this the bonus week. So,
yeah?
Actually, this was now 2 years ago, the coaches decided to add an extra week to the season. It was supposed to take effect last season. Of course, the pandemic happened. We had it in the spring. It was already shortened, so it really didn't take effect. So this year is the first year of adding the extra week. Technically, the first week was called Week 0 because they took away scrimmage Saturday.
Yeah.
But this is what I kind of consider the bonus week, because normally Week 7 would be our regular week. Mm-hmm. Instead, that's going to be next week. So this is kind of our bonus week, I'm calling it football as well.
So high school football, the weeks they do Week 0 too? I hate that college football does that, Week 0, because no one plays other than a couple teams, and then you have your real Week 1. But in Week 0, it sounds like in high school football, everyone plays. Is that correct? Pretty much?
Well, what they did was they gave teams the option. You could either play a game or you could do the scrimmage, and I think pretty much everybody almost... I don't even know of a team that even decided to do the scrimmage. They all decided to get that extra game in.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you if you were a coach for one of these teams? Because the season's so short as it is. I mean, obviously, they can't play 17 weeks like they do in the NFL. A lot of these kids play hockey. They play basketball, right? But when I was in school, I'm like, why do they only play 7-8 weeks? It's such a short season. Even our flag football league, I wish it could go longer, but sometimes you're stuck. It can't. So it's good that they got an extra week. I'm sure the kids appreciate it and stuff. And so, all right. So just a couple more weeks left before we head out to the Highmark Stadium, right, for some playoff games.
Yeah, and we'll have a full playoffs. Remember last in the spring, there was only 4 teams per class. Was a lot in playoffs. We'll be back to 8 teams. So we should have a fun and exciting playoffs.
So Sweet Home has first and goal with 6:38 remaining, still 22-20. I'm just checking to see if anything came through. Possible update, lightning delay.
For which game?
There's a lightning delay in the West Seneca West Amherst game.
Okay. I do have another update. 24-12 Southwestern over at Allegheny Limestone.
Yep.
About 10 minutes left in that game.
10 minutes left with that score that we got via Braden Carmen. So isn't it great, though? I mean, I'm sitting here on the side. I'm looking at the tweet doc, which is amazing because I'm on Twitter all day. And last week when I was here, I'm like going to Twitter, and I'm looking at the tweet doc, and I could have found some stuff on there, so I keep checking my Twitter. But I'm loving this Sweet Home game, St. Joe's.
You know what I'm going to pull up for the audience?
Well, let's pull it up because Francis, they're first and 10, so they're in the red zone as they say in the NFL red zone. So let's take a look at that.
Yeah, it looks like St. Joe's at Sweet Home right now, as you can see on your screen. Oh, it looks like St. Joe's has the football.
St. Joe's has the football?
So it must have been a turnover.
Yes, that's right. Because it was first and goal, so now if it's first and 10, or second and 6 now, so they must have fumbled the ball. Let me see if I can get an update on that. Nothing's come across from St. Joe's yet, but if they do, I will let you know.
Yeah, let me see if we can pull in the audio real quick from that game. Yeah, here we are. Let me pipe this in. Audio quick from that game. Yeah, here we are. Let me pipe this in. Audio. Oh, hold on. I piped in the wrong thing, I just realized.
And Francis, can I tell you what happened?
What?
In this game, Sweet Home fumbled the ball.
Sweet Home fumbled? Wow.
Pitch, yep.
All right. Okay, now I pulled in. All right, now let's pipe in the audio as well. This should be better.
It could be a confidence booster.
Yeah, here's John Simon on the call.
Worrying you, like, say something goes wrong in this game, and Sweet's going to come away from this and go, well, here's where we struggled against St. Joe's, and if we struggle with this against a winless team, how are we going to handle this in the playoffs? So there's a lot for Sweet Home to take away from this one. The film session's going to be a lot different than how we thought it was going to be in the beginning of the third quarter, probably.
Yeah, and especially playing here right now, you got Grand Island next week.
I think what John was talking about is next week Sweet Home is a very important game. Remember, this is a non-leaguer. It really doesn't mean anything for the postseason. Mm-hmm. But they'll have a big game coming up against Grand Island next week. Let me take another look at the standings so I have my bearings here. Right now, Grand Island is number 1 in that division, but they have a game against Sweet Home next week. Sweet Home only has 1 loss, so if the Panthers beat the Vikings, they would end up with 1 loss, and then you're potentially you can either have a 1-loss Star Point or a 1-loss Kenmore West, a game we're going to be at tomorrow, one that we'll get into a little bit later in the show exactly what that means. But Sweet Home, they want to get, and be in as best position as possible to win that game, so they at least be in a tiebreaker for the first spot. Maybe they, aren't able to get it. Maybe they end up in third, depending on how it's all figured out. Because in A North they don't all play each other, so you could have you go down on the barrel of tiebreakers for sure. But if you're the Panthers, you want to be in a situation where you're in a 3-way tie for first rather than a 3-way tie for third.
I'll put up the Southwestern Allegheny Gators game, and just a quick update from there. It's 30-12. Trojans have scored. They had a botched extra point, and it remains 30-12 with 7:16 remaining. Just a score update from there.
And I just saw 17-7 Lancaster. That game is now at halftime right now. All right, why don't we take a short break? We'll be back. We'll see if we can get a reporter to call in from that Southwestern game. We'll go over the stats as of right now going into Week 6. We'll have more from the St. Joe's Sweet Home game and so much more. And hopefully the weather won't cause any more havoc tonight as well. All right, you're watching the Friday night final drive right here on Western New York Athletics.
When it's time to sell your home, start with a visit to howardhanna.com, ranked the #1 real estate site for sellers. A few clicks will show you the sales price you can expect for your home. We can get you the most money in the quickest amount of time because we know where the local buyers are and how to reach them. So if it's time to sell your home, visit howardhanna.com today, and we'll match you with a local Howard Hanna agent to sell your home fast.
I love being home.
If you've been injured in an auto accident, large or small, call 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab right away. If you are in pain or just sore, don't take chances. Call RES today and take advantage of their 24 to 48-hour appointment pledge. With no copays, RES will help navigate the confusing world of no-fault insurance with you, so you can concentrate on getting better. 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab. The most important call you can make after an auto accident.
Avoiding care can lead to worse problems. Don't delay care. We're here for you. Western New York Immediate Care provides quick, quality care for non-emergent injuries and illnesses. Go to wnyImmediatecare.com for more information.
All right, welcome back to the Friday night final drive. Francis Beck, joined by Joe Daniel, Week 7 edition. We're about a half hour into things. We went through, and I think it's about time we go through all the scores again. You know, we have more people listening or watching the show and wanted to get an update. So why don't we go back through the whole scoreboard, what we have so far as well, because some games have been postponed, some have been canceled outright. But Joe, let's... where are we at 9:04 p.m.?
Yeah, let me just pull this up here. The ticker's a little weird tonight. About 22-6, Sweet Home. I'm sorry. Actually, that needs to be updated here. I apologize. Let's go to Seneca West. It's 21-0. And then we had...
And that game is in a weather delay, right?
Which one? The West? Yeah, West is in a weather delay, yep. 21-0 West. They're in a weather delay as a few minutes ago. Iroquois Olean... I had 21-13. Haven't seen any updates from there. Pioneer was up 37-0 against the Eagles of Lake Shore. Allegheny Limestone, Southwestern. You can see that game on WNOI Athletics. 30-12, and I can give you an update right now. It's 1st and 10 with 6:15 remaining, and Limestone has the ball inside their own 35. After a Southwestern touchdown, that I'm going to update you in just a second of how that happened. And as we scroll across, I'm going to check the St. Francis Twitter page in just a second, but it was 21-6 in that game. If I get an update for you, I will update that. And let's talk about that Southwestern game. Tweeted from Braden Carmen. Thank you for that. Aiden Kennedy finds Matt Pans in the end zone for a 35-yard touchdown to extend the lead to 30-12. That was with 7:16 remaining. Limestone has the ball with a 2nd and 3. And that is your scoring update for this moment, Francis.
I mentioned it earlier, but that Maryvale-Burgard game, very important for the Flyers to get that win. They will all most likely get that number 3 seed in B North. I know the Flyers play Cheektowaga, but if things hold the way they should, the Flyers should end up with that 3 seed in the B North division. Iroquois, with a win, pretty much notches up the B South title. They would be the number 1 seed in that division. Last night, I don't know if we talked about it at all, but two very important games from last night. We had Hamburg beat South Park 20-6. That means the Bulldogs clinch a playoff spot, and we now know the 4 teams in that division. We know Jamestown already clinched the division. They did it actually earlier this week. Williamsville East, unfortunately, decided to forfeit due to injuries. So with that, Jamestown was able to clinch the division. We know Frontier already clinched the spot. They won yesterday against Will North in a non-league battle, and Will South has clinched already as well. So we're still we still don't quite know the order yet. Jamestown has won. Hamburg and Frontier play next week. That'll be a big game, and that'll pretty much that will decide 2, 3, 4, depending on who wins and possibly by how much as well. So that'll be a big game next week. And the other game that was very important last night was Depew-Eden. The C Central Division was on the line, and these two teams put on a good show. 42-37, the Wildcats win, and they clinch the C Division. And they'll be trying to go see if they can get and I should say this: they already have a top 3 spot. They can see if they can try to get the number 1 seed and guaranteed home field advantage throughout the playoffs until Highmark Stadium.
Just checking in the Sweet Home game for St. Joe's. Sweet Home has the ball. Yes, and it's 17-7 Lancaster at halftime. Just to confirm, I did get a text. I want to confirm if it was still a lightning delay out there.
Oh, wait a minute. We have a fumble by Sweet Home.
Sweet Home fumbled the ball, so now you're ahead of me then.
Let's see. We're just watching a replay of it right now. Yeah, Sweet Home fumbled on the pitch, but it looks like they have just recovered it. Yeah, they recovered the football, so I believe it'll be second down with about 2:30 to go. They hold a 2-point lead in this game. We're gonna check back in a minute or two as they get this game together. If Sweet Home can hold on for the win.
So Francis, are you ahead of me now?
I think we're on the same point.
Same on the page? Okay.
We got another update.
Go ahead.
This one's from Depew. It's CSP leading Batavia 21-19. I believe the game's at Depew because game is at Depew. That's obviously on our air, and I believe probably the reason was traveling issues. Batavia is out, as you know, in the Rochester area. CSP is way down on the southern tier, so rather than have one team travel 2.5 hours to a location, to one of the team home sites, they found a place in the middle. Of course, we just mentioned Depew played last night, so that facility was open. So they're playing that game there, and last minute pickup, and it looks like it's paying off really for both teams and for us. We get a great game out of it, and CSP could learn a lot about themselves if they can beat a really good Class B team.
And I think from a viewer standpoint, you just want to watch a competitive game, right? You want both teams to play their best. It's easier to broadcast. It's easier to watch. And it's good for the schools because they're going to learn a lot from each other. And hopefully it'll help them down the line. While we have a second, as scores kind of slowed down a little bit tonight. France, we talked about that with the weather and stuff. Week 6 stats and notes, we can go through the passing stats from Week 6. So if I was to ask you, and I want to know if you looked at this first, who is the number 1 ranked quarterback in passing stats in Section 6?
That would be Ben Gosella from Orchard Park.
Okay, because he's been number 1 all year?
Yeah, he's been number 1 all year. And let me ask you, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to spoil what's in the receiver. So why don't you keep going, Joe?
All right, so Gosella from Orchard Park, 1,900 yards, 22 touchdown passes. He leads the Section 6 in touchdowns by a close margin. And
you know what, Joe? I'm going to pull in we're going to pull over the Sweet Home game. Yeah, 4th down right now for the Panthers, as they try to keep the ball and hold off the Marauders.
Good defense there. Just underthrown, so sometimes when receivers coming back to have to fight through the defender. Just tough.
This audio's a little off, but it looks like there's a pass down the field, and the refs are trying to decide if they're going to throw a flag or what.
Well, they did throw a flag, and I think they're talking about it because I had seen in the corner of my eye they had thrown down to the end zone. There's a lot of contact, and it looks like they're going to call a flag, so that's what's going to give them the first down. So a big break because it would have been 4th and 10.
Well, isn't it 4th and 10 now? Oh no, it's okay. It's first and 10.
Yep.
Okay. This screen here, we do apologize, is a little bit behind, but it appears there is a penalty. Sweet Home now has the ball inside the 15 with about 1:30 to go in that game.
And everyone, just so you know, I'm watching it on my phone, so if the timing's not perfect, I apologize. We're just trying to make the best so we can both talk about what's going on. So we definitely appreciate your understanding with that.
All right, well, let's see if I can get it updated. In the meantime, while they have a timeout in that game.
Yeah, let's go back to the passing because I don't see any. Actually, we do have an update here. No, I'm sorry, same one. All right, so we're all caught up with our updates from TweetDeck. All right, so Ben Gosella, number 1 quarterback. Noah Willoughby from South Park. Trey Kleitz from Iroquois. Jason Green from Lockport, and then Sean Sansom from Williamsville East. What can you tell me about those top 5 quarterbacks in Section 6?
Well, Noah Willoughby, he's struggled a couple times, but honestly, he is. I love the way he plays. He fits that South Park system so perfectly. At South Park, they have tons of athletes, and the QB's job is to kind of be that point guard and just get it to those guys. And he does a great job of that. They throw a lot of bubble screens, and he just gets to his guys, and they're able to make plays. Unfortunately, South Park will miss the playoffs this year after winning the Class A title last year, but Willoughby's only a sophomore, so I think things can only go up from here.
And Kenmore East is playing Star Point tomorrow, correct?
No, Kenmore West.
Kenmore West is playing. I'm sorry. So I get the East and the West confused. I apologize. So Carson Marcus, Star Point, ranks in number 7. And filling out the top 10, Trey Drake from Jamestown. He's a junior. He has 870 total yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, ranks out the top 10. So final thoughts on that quarterback class and what they've done this year so far.
Carson Marcus is a player that impressed as a sophomore a couple years ago when he had Joe Carlson with him. Last year, unfortunately, the Spartans were one of the teams that were really hurt by COVID, and then Marcus, I believe, got injured himself later in the year, and it kind of ruined the Star Point playoff chances later in the season. But it appears they're back where they should be, and they have a chance tomorrow with a win to secure probably the number 2 seed, most likely, or at least a top 3 seed in that division, and get an easy trip to the postseason.
It's 3rd and 14 for Sweet Home, and they're going to wrap up the quarterback behind the line of scrimmage. So clock is ticking in this game, and a timeout for St. Joe's as they're trying to get the ball back with a chance to either get a field goal or get a touchdown. But they're in this game, Francis. St. Joe's has had a tough season, but playing a public school team, they were down big in this game. They get that touchdown, they got the onside kick, and they've really shown some, courage and, mental strength to get themselves back in this game.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, this would be a signature win for the program. This is, as we mentioned, Sweet Home's no scrappy team. Only 1 loss in the year. That loss is to, I think, maybe a little bit of a fluke to a Lockport team that was tough to take, but they took care of business against McKinley, against North Tonawanda, and pretty much in Kenmore West as well, which is we just saw last week, put on a fantastic show against North Tonawanda. So why don't I pipe in the sound for this 4th and 17?
They're looking at 4th and 17 again here.
Yeah, looks like we're backing up for the Marauders defense here, bringing some pressure.
Dunstan going over the middle. It's a little high for Theodore. He was bumped by the defender, but no flags thrown. Pass was a little bit uncatchable in my opinion. And St. Joe's gets the stop. And they're
big stop by St. Joe's, Francis. They sent a blitzer up the middle in the corner and rattled the quarterback. He rolled right away. Good no call, and a good job by Joe's with that defensive stop.
And it's smart play as well by the defender, knowing it was 4th down and just trying to knock it away, not trying to get an interception. Just knock it away and get yourself good field position, especially with only 1:08 left in the game. You want to give yourself a good drive start as possible to get down and score.
Just a quick update from the Clarence game versus Lancaster, and another delay.
Yeah, I just got that as well. Another 30-minute delay. The rules in high school is you can't even come on the field to warm up until after 30 minutes from the last lightning strike.
So what happens with the fans that are there? They have to clear out every time, right?
Ideally, that's what they try. Yeah, send them out to their cars as well.
Man.
And then you just hope for the best. Of course, we're at 9:17 right now. Another 30 minutes. They're not warming up till 9:45, and if they're at halftime, this could be dicey. So, if there was if it keeps thundering for another few minutes, you're looking at a 10 o'clock start to the second half. I don't know if school officials want to do that. We may see the second half of games get scheduled for tomorrow.
That can happen?
Yeah, that has happened in the past. I remember there was one big thunderstorm on a Friday night. I want to say it was week 2 of a season. This may have been 3 or 4 years ago. And it was widespread across the area, and there were a bunch of games that had to be played Saturday night. And it was a little bit of tough getting all the officials, because they still had the regular Saturday games they had to have covered, and then so you had officials doing double duty. They do an afternoon game.
So they didn't have the same officials, right?
I don't know if that's true.
No?
I
would be the coach. I would be the coach who would be complaining that's not the same officials. And it looks like it's pouring out in Sweet Home, which is right down the road from us, so it's probably raining out here, don't you think?
Yeah, I know it was pouring earlier. I was concerned with the thunder. I heard it a little bit in Tonawanda, and I thought maybe Amherst would have the same issue, but I texted our producer, Tim, who was there. He said it was pouring, but no thunder over there, so they were on time for that game.
And we have the Sweet Home game still pulled up, correct?
Yeah, let me put it back in the screen, put it up in the audio.
Yeah, it's 3rd and 10 with 6 seconds left.
John Simon on the call.
Anderson on his left side as well. Jens quickly rolls to that side, looks to throw, gets one away, and that one tipped. And I believe that was Coloco on the far side to get a hand on that ball. It was Coloco or Moody in coverage, but that'll bring up 4th down.
Yeah, very athletic play, jumping off to get a hand on that, and could be the play that preserves the win here, but we'll see here. We got a long 4th and 10 coming up.
So 4th and 10, as Mike said. Last chance for St. Joe's here to keep this going and try to get the win, but we got whistles. Timeout called by the defense. That's Sweet Home's 3rd and final one of the half.
All right, well, we have the timeout. I'll leave it up on the screen, but I'll turn the audio down in this game. And not that I want to jump ahead of we should jump ahead of ourselves, but is there a way? Let me ask this question. Do you think there's a way, as you coach a little bit,
yeah.
Coach Corona, what's your message to this team? If you can't pull out this 4th and 10 and get down and score, how do you, after everything they've been through, how do you take the positive away from this?
Well, let's start from what he's probably saying here on a 4th and 10. Let's give it our best shot, probably throw in the best play that they've practiced for this situation. And honestly, turnover, if they force it, it doesn't matter because of the time, right? Get a good look, get open, win your route. I mean, everyone wants to be a receiver, catch the ball. And Jones has to win their route. They got to beat their coverage, get open. Quarterback's got to make a throw. Offensive line's got to get good protection. On defense, don't get a flag.
Looks over the middle, completes it to Anderson, gets around Theodore, and that's enough for a 1st down. Deion Anderson just short of the 40.
So Deion Anderson, he won his route. He gave the quarterback a good window, and he made a move and gained some extra yards. So 4th and 10. I mean, that's hard in any league. And Joe's picks up a humongous 1st down, keeps this game going, 43 seconds left.
And that shows how much trust that quarterback has in his receiver. Throw a route like that. Oh, wait a minute, we have a flag on the field. Oh, no, never mind. I think,
it's timeout?
You know what? I saw the ball, and the way it reflected off the light, I thought it was a flag, and the official was making some movements, but
could you imagine a late flag like that? I would lose my mind. I'm like, because no team is moving forward or backwards, Francis. So
let's get John back in with 44 seconds.
Days during the week, you will practice a 2-minute drill one of the days, and so maybe you understand. Maybe you have some signals from the sidelines that they'll be looking for, but maybe just getting everyone together. Hey, if we get a 10 yards here, let's run this play right after, and then that way you don't have to huddle up.
Short time for St. Joe's. 1st and 10, and that'll help them out. Wouldn't have gotten much yards, and that incomplete pass stops the clock at 41. Anderson, the intended receiver.
Definitely want to be looking towards the sideline here, especially if them being out of timeouts, and kind of got to use the clock and kind of keep an eye on that to try to stop it as much as possible.
Sweet Home defense has played a so-so second half. They've given up 2 touchdowns in the 3rd and 4th quarter. It's been a 14-0 run for St. Joe's right now. Dream hasn't scored since 6:53 mark of the 3rd quarter, but all they need right now is one more stop from the defense. St. Joe's from their own 38, 2nd and 10. Gents over the middle, another incomplete pass. Connor is intended receiver there.
So, Francis, on this play, we want to at least get half the yards.
Man-to-man from Sweet.
It's going to be hard to make another 4th down and 10, so get half the yards, make this a more manageable 4th down, really is the goal.
Yeah, I would say even if it's over the middle, just something to get 4 or 5 yards, as you said.
Yeah, because
not to mention you get confidence, and you make it easier on your offense to get those next 5 yards.
Not letting St. Joe's really get much momentum here. Anderson just got the 1st down a few plays ago. Gents rolling to the left side. He's able to hit Noonan, and he gets knocked out of bounds. We'll see where they spot it, but he was right around the 1st down marker.
Yeah, nice play there. They've been running this rollout to the left. Defensive end stayed at Holmes, which made Gents.
It looks like they're going to march him just short. It'll be 4th and 1 from just before midfield for the Marauders.
Clock stops at 29 1/10.
Talked about it getting at least 5, and they got 9.
St. Joe's. And we're going to get, no official's timeout. I thought he was about to blow a whistle. 4th and 1 for the Marauders. And Gents able to swing that one out, and that's a 1st down. And Spock with the grab. Clock is rolling, as Mike said. They got to stop it briefly just to move the chains, but officials now have it rolling again. 20 seconds remaining, 1st and 10 from the Sweet Home 48. Gents takes the snap, lobs one down the left side, and it's intercepted! Brandon Whitehead was there for the pick, and that should all but seal the win for the Panthers. They escape a late comeback from the Marauders, and the Sweet Home Panthers are a kneel down away from improving to 6-1 on the year.
Yeah,
and as that game goes final, we have another final just into our studios at Southwestern in our other game, getting the 36-12 win over Allegheny Limestone, a win the Trojans desperately needed with 2 losses to try to stay alive, to stay in the hunt for the playoff spot in Class C.
Yeah, that puts them at 4-3, 3-2 into league play. Allegheny Limestone falls to 3-4. 1-4 in league play. So they won 36-12, Francis. There was a late touchdown in that game. Let's see. Aiden Kennedy tossed his 5th touchdown of the evening with 53 seconds left. That's how they got to 36. Aiden Kennedy, so he had 5. He also had a rushing touchdown for Trojans. And Cameron Lemke and Matt Panitz each had 2 TDs receptions for Southwestern.
As well. So, yeah, big win for the Trojans. Joe, let's take a short break. We'll go back through all the scores.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to want to talk about this Sweet Home ending. I have some final thoughts on it.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll get your final thoughts on that. I also want to talk about tomorrow's games, a bunch of 2 big games on the docket that we need to spend time on as well. So you're watching the Friday Night Final Drive right here on Western New York Athletics.
When it's time to sell your home, start with a visit to howardhanna.com, ranked the #1 real estate site for sellers. A few clicks will show you the sales price you can expect for your home. We can get you the most money in the quickest amount of time because we know where the local buyers are how to reach them. So if it's time to sell your home, visit howardhanna.com today, and we'll match you with a local Howard Hanna agent to sell your home fast.
I love being home.
If you've been injured in an auto accident, large or small, call 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab right away. If you are in pain or just sore, don't take chances. Call RES today and take advantage of their 24 to 48-hour appointment pledge. With no copays, RES will help navigate the confusing world of no-fault insurance with you, so you can concentrate on getting better. 681-4088. RES Physical Medicine and Rehab. The most important call you can make after an auto accident.
Avoiding care can lead to worse problems. Don't delay care. We're here for you. Western New York Immediate Care provides quick, quality care for non-emergent injuries and illnesses. Go to WNYimmediatecare.com for more information.
All right, welcome back to the Friday Night Final Drive, 9:28. And Joe, we've been talking about the scores all night. For those just tuning in, why don't we go through them all again? And then we'll talk about that ending to that Sweet Home St. Joe's game that we just saw.
Yeah, Francis, my pleasure to be with you this Friday night. Unfortunately, the last two, I cannot be here, but I will be back next year because I enjoy hanging out with you on this Friday night, talking some high school football. So back to the scoreboard, McKinley North Tonawanda, that was postponed tonight. You did see on the WNY Athletic Facebook page that Sweet Home held off Joe's 22-20 as Joe's was moving the ball, but Sweet Home gets the interception to end the game late in the fourth. Gosella West, Amherst, that was in a lightning delay. We still have a 21-0 score report from there. Other scores reported, Iroquois and Olean, it was 29-19 Iroquois in the fourth. Pioneer and Lakeshore, last update we had from them was 37-0. Southwestern pulled away from Allegheny Limestone 36-12 off 5 touchdown passes from Aiden Kennedy, along with 1 rushing. Matt Pans and Cameron Lemp with 2 touchdowns each. Randolph beat East Shore Holland 46-13. I did look for another update from St. Francis in DeSales of Ohio. St. Francis didn't post anything, but I will check again in a second. That one was 21-6. St. Francis had 2 field goals in the first quarter, but 3 touchdowns in the first half for DeSales, made that a 15-point game, and that's your scoring update.
Yeah, it looks like the Huskies are coming back. You said 21-19 Iroquois right now.
29-19.
29-19?
Yeah, that's what I saw. Do you see something different?
I do, and I think I saw another version up here. Okay, so it looks like the Chiefs then are pulling away in this game. So, that, again, that's important for the Chiefs. They want to be able to keep that B South division. Always nice to have a top seed. Get to host a playoff game. I've never been a part of that. I can imagine it's pretty fun as a high school football team to be able to host a home playoff game. You can't imagine what that atmosphere's got to be like.
Francis, just to talk about something that happened last night, if we can for a second, let's do a shout-out to the Depew running back, Carson Alberti, who had a record-shattering night, 287 yards on the ground, 5 TDs for 21 touchdowns on the season, all-school records, fastest to 1,000 in 7 games. Just a quick thought on that. I see this tweet come through.
You know, next week he's going to be Depew Lancaster.
Rivalry week, right?
Big rivalry game. Depew is as good as they've been in a while. Lancaster, still very good, but maybe not quite as where they've been the past couple of years as they win sectional titles. Who knows? That could be a decently competitive game this year. I believe it's happening at Lancaster, but don't quote me on that. But that could be a very fun game between those two teams with the way Depew is playing this year, and they're going to go into the playoffs with a top seed.
A final from Iroquois in Olean. Iroquois Chiefs with a 36-19 win over Olean. Just a report here in the last 10 seconds. And one score we didn't mention, I apologize. Just if you just joined us late, the 13-6 win for Maryville over Beauregard that happened at Highmark Stadium tonight in Game 1 of their 2 that they had down there. And only one game here remaining, Francis, with the WNY Athletics Rail Crew, and they're at the Pew, and it's 25-21 for the Blue Devils, as we're only in the third quarter, so this game's running late probably due to weather, I would say.
Yeah, I believe they started probably about a half hour, 45 minutes late, but they are on the move there at Depew. This game is being played at Depew, as we talked about earlier, so but CSP certainly putting on a show against one of the top Class B teams in Section 5.
Yeah, and Batavia has a 3rd and 2 inside of CSP territory. Should we move on as the scores? We went through the score list, Francis, and just talk about the rushing stats from Week 6.
Yeah, let me talk about rushing for a little bit. Who we got?
All right, so rushing, Jalen Butera from Jamestown. So Jamestown's got the number 10 quarterback in stats with Trey Drake. They've got the number 1 rusher in Butera. The senior, on 137 carries, has rushed for 1,200 yards, nearly 1,300, 9.5 yards per carry, 22 touchdowns on the season. Tell me about Jalen Butera, since he's number 1 in rushing.
He is just a beast. He's puts on great performance after great performance. And in my opinion, I think he's probably the front runner to take home the Connolly Cup at this point. Unfortunate for him that his opponent forfeited, so he's not going to have his top spot anymore on the Section 6 leaderboard, and he's probably going to end up losing 200-300 yards because they're not playing this game that will not go on his stat sheet. But he is having a phenomenal year for the Red Raiders. He's really the catalyst to go along with Trey Drake and just a strong supporting cast, a team that is on a mission this year after falling. All right, last year they ran through A, and then they went into they faced South Park, and that game came down to the very end in overtime. South Park wins it on a 2-point conversion. I believe there was a missed extra point earlier in the game. So this team is hungry. They bring back most of those players from last year. This is a team 2 years ago as sophomores. A lot of these guys were keeping up with the likes of Lancaster and Orchard Park as well. So this team is certainly on a mission. I think they are definitely good. I would not be surprised to see them in Syracuse in a month or so.
Francis, let's pull up the Blue Devil CSP game, as Batavia should still be in the red zone. Let's take a look at that. 25-21 is the score.
All right, let's pipe in the audio here. Tom Prince, Stu Boyer on the call.
And Reinhardt will hand it off, and Anderson barrels forward. He's down to about almost a 1-yard line, where it will be 2nd and goal. There's not much that CSP can do here, Tom.
No, in fact, I won't even be surprised if Batavia kneels this one down.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a possibility.
It'll either be, like I said, it's either going to be the knee or one more shot here for Anderson right here into the end zone.
2nd and goal from the 2. The clock is at 50 seconds and counting. And once again, Reinhardt will let the play clock run.
Sounds like this game might be in the fourth quarter.
Back from their first loss of the season.
Yeah, based on what Tom said.
Lima, and Aiden Anderson barreling forward, and he's shoved back. And that'll bring up 3rd and goal with 20 seconds and counting.
I think that's it. I don't think they're going to need to run another play right here.
I don't either, but we're going to wait and see just in case. The clock is at 10 seconds, and I do think you're right. You are correct.
All right, it looks like that'll be a final.
Off the clock, and that will
Yeah, that's a final from Depew. It's Section 5's Batavia getting the 25-21 win over the CSP Wolfpack. Keep in mind, Wolfpack fans, Batavia as a Class B team, they're also 5-1 on the season, so this is nothing for the Wolfpack to hang their heads about tonight.
So a couple of great games with Sweet Home and St. Joe's, with Sweet Home holding off St. Joe's late on that drive, and we want to talk about that. So they had the two fourth down plays that they got, and you talk about timeouts, they didn't have any, and that clock ran, they were forced to throw it up, but at the end of the day, each team wants to win, right? But the goal is also to teach these kids lessons, right? And as they become adults, and one thing that you can learn from is the fact of how they came back, being down 22-6, and some of those fourth down plays. I mean, it's big games play. You know, the quarterback just getting the ball out quick, making some catches. So St. Joe's falls short. They now play Timon next Saturday at home at 1 o'clock.
Meanwhile,
yes.
Why don't we go into Timon is in action tomorrow against Cardinal O'Hara. The Tigers get their first win, I believe, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. They face an O'Hara team who's still looking for their first win. It'll be at O'Hara, and it could be a very competitive game.
Yeah, and the Monsignor Martin, because so in soccer, when I was at St. Francis, we'd play Cardinal O'Hara, we played Timon, and I think it's a little bit different now in regards to different leagues, right? With the Monsignor Martin, it's kind of separated.
So a few years ago, I think they decided to split Monsignor Martin football into two divisions. You have A, B, so A is Joe's, Francis Canisius, B is Timon O'Hara Marys, so it's a three-team division, three-team playoff. Top seed gets a bye and home field, and then the other two play for the in the first round.
Something I would love to see, Francis, and obviously it's not my call. I would love just to see one where those three teams, I know maybe it's a little bit different in style of playing competition, but I'd love to see those, the A and the B, just become one, make it a little bit tougher, and maybe see some teams, championship game that isn't St. Francis, isn't Canisius, and give those schools a chance in A. Maybe one day that'll happen, maybe it won't, but
that's what it was before, and I think they felt, with Timon kind of following the way they did a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Because, O'Hara and St. Mary's had trouble competing with the likes of Joe's and Canisius and the big schools, and I think once Timon was considered for a while one of the top schools, and then unfortunately with things happening they kind of fell, and I think they looked at it, they had three teams who are at one level, three teams who are at another, so they decided to go to two divisions, which, keep in mind, years ago when there were many more Catholic schools, there used to be two full divisions, and you had a run of, in the 90s, of Cardinal O'Hara winning multiple B championships in Monsignor Martin. Speaking of small schools, we're going to bring on Braden Carmen. He was at that Southwestern Allegheny Limestone game. Braden, we watched a little bit of it from here. Obviously, you broadcasted the game. But what did it look like in person?
Well, it was really impressive from Aiden Kennedy, especially after the way that Fredonia game ended last week. Obviously, he left it all out on the field last week, coming up just a 2-point conversion shy in that game. But he was in control today, threw 4 touchdown passes, had a touchdown run as well. 2 touchdown passes to Matt Panis, 2 touchdown passes to Cameron Lemp. I mean, it really just, they were in control the entire game. 17-0 lead at half and closed it out 36-12.
Did you feel a sense of urgency from Southwestern? They already had 2 losses on their season, and they're really, after making it to the sectional final this year, they're fighting to just get in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Sense of urgency, we kind of saw it at the very end of that game. 2 minutes left, they have the ball in the red zone. Could have just taken a knee to end the game, but they pushed it and got another touchdown because you never know with point differential and everything being the tiebreaker. They're trying to leave nothing up to chance and force their way back into the playoffs. So there definitely was a sense of urgency, especially being at home, especially having a kind of a down year by their standards. They want to leave nothing up to chance, and I think that they proved that tonight.
Aiden Kennedy, do you consider him, it was interesting watching him last week, seeing him go up against Nick Whitfield. Do you think maybe he put too much pressure on himself last week with the QB matchup? Maybe he was a bit more relaxed this week?
I'm not sure about that. I think that he definitely was more relaxed this week, but I don't think it was really anything in terms of pressure for him last week. I think last week, once they fell down in a hole, I mean, there was more pressure on him to do something, and when the moment got tough, he responded even better than he had earlier in the game. So I do think tonight he was more relaxed. Playing at home kind of probably has something to do with that. Not playing against Fredonia probably had something to do with that. But no, I wouldn't necessarily say it's pressure. He did seem very comfortable tonight, though. I mean, he was running around. I mean, there was one play, I don't know if you saw it on the broadcast or not, but a play for a 2-point conversion at the very end of the game where he ran around in circles. Probably college football fans would have seen a Bo Nix play a couple weeks ago against LSU, where he did the same thing. He's like running around in circles for probably 15 seconds, chucks it up, and the ball's in the air, batted down at the end zone for going for a 2-point conversion. So, yeah, I mean, he definitely felt like he was in control the entire night tonight, and I don't think he felt any pressure tonight.
All right, well, Braden, thank you for calling in. He's been calling in this latter half of the season. I'm sure we'll get you in a few more times before the season wraps up.
Sure thing.
All right, it was Braden Carmen helping us out tonight at that Southwestern Allegheny Limestone game. Remember, if you didn't see it or you want to watch it again, it's available right now on our Facebook, YouTube, and I believe our Twitter page as well. You can watch a replay of that anytime.
It's funny, Francis. I've done a couple games for you guys in March, and I'm very appreciative of every game I get to do. I did a soccer game, and I don't go back and listen. I just can't. It's so weird because, like when you talk on the phone and you're like, that I don't sound like that. And I ask my family to listen, and then, they tell me if I did a good job or not. But, yeah, all the games are there. Maybe one day when I retire, I'll go back.
When you retire.
Well, I never thought, honestly, I'd be back into this. And I'm so happy that Frank posted this, in February. And I did a lot of live scoring. Did 47 hockey games. I've never been to that many high school hockey games, and that season's starting soon. I got to do 2 basketball games, some football games. Never thought I'd be in this again. And I'm appreciative of being here today with you guys. I can't stress that enough. Just 2 scoring updates. I did find a final from St. Francis and their game in Columbus. They fell 20-6. Pioneer extended their lead against Lakeshore 54-0 in the third quarter.
All right, let's get into tomorrow's games. And we talked about time in O'Hara. Big game going on. This one's a 10 o'clock game, folks. Normally they play the JV at this time, but they decided to do 10 o'clock. Johnny B. Wiley. It's going to be Albion at Maritime. Winner takes home the B North Division. Will, of course, broadcast this game right here on Western New York Athletics. This is a game I'm really excited about, and I think for much of this season, Maritime did not get the respect they deserved, and frankly, I was very annoyed by it because the reason I believe they weren't getting the respect is because they were 0-2, and the reason they were 0-2 because they played Bennett, who was about to get the number 1 seed in AA, and they played Canisius, who we know who Canisius is. And keep in mind, Bennett, they only gave up 1 offensive touchdown to the Tigers. The other touchdown was a special teams, a 16-0 game. But yet it took weeks for Maritime to get even on state rankings as well. I believe now they're at the top, or at least they're at the top of the Western New York standings as well. So big game for Maritime. And Albion is a team that every couple of years, every other year, it seems like they're right at the top of things. I think we sometimes forget about them because Albion's a little bit out of the way, but they have a big team this year, 2 undefeated teams, and we'll be able to see what they have in store. It'll be 10 o'clock. Tom Prince will be on the call. Some other games. Canisius is traveling to Erie. Take on that. St. Mary's is hosting Letchworth Warsaw. I believe they're out of Section 5. Springville and JFK are going at it as well. And then it's Wilson Alden. Kenmore East is heading to Lockport in a North battle. Orchard Park, Niagara Falls. Quakers looking to bounce back off that loss to Clarence last week. You also have Cleve Hill and Newfane. That'll be another B North battle. Maybe C North. Salamanca, Chautauqua Lake, Cassadaga Valley, Fredonia as well. Fredonia trying to secure their spot. They're on top of C. But I want to talk about next the game we'll be at, which is Star Point Kenmore West. So Sunday night, not during the long delay, but for some reason after the game, because I couldn't fall asleep, I decided to play around with the A playoff scenarios. And as I mentioned earlier, what makes A crazy is that they have an extra team compared to the South team, and you don't face two of the other teams in your division. So if you end up tied with somebody, either it's a two-way tie or a three-way tie or more with somebody, you may have not played them. So you can't even do a shared point differential between multiple teams. You have to go down to what's called, I believe, RPI, which is where they not only take your record, but the record of the teams that you faced, take their wins, and then come up with the whole point system. I wasn't even going to try the other night. I'm not sure if I'm even going to try at all to figure out that if we get an RPI tie.
So no matter what spot you tie, that happens.
Well, no. It depends on who you tie with.
Depends on who you tie with.
So if you tie with a team you didn't play, can't use you can't use any head-to-head, and you can't use a. So usually, a lot of times for a three-way tie, we might use a point differential among the games that happened between those three teams. But again, if two of those teams didn't play each other, you can't use that, and so you have to go to this RPI situation. If I can pull up my notes, I should have brought that up in a second, but I think basically the two games this comes down to pretty much is going to be tomorrow, Star Point, Ken West. Star Point right now sits at 4-1, a win. They would be 5-1. They would clinch the spot. They'd probably get the number 2 seed, depending on the tiebreaker, but most likely they would end up with number 2 seed. They would at least clinch tomorrow. And then you have Kenmore West, currently sits at 3-1, and then they have a game next week against Kenmore East, who is winless and also in their division. So so I believe Kenmore West would probably win that game, but again, stranger things have happened in that rivalry. I can tell you that firsthand. But I mean, there's a situation where you could end up with 3 teams tied up at 5-1. Or next week, you have Sweet Home face Grand Island. Sweet Home only 1 loss in league play. Grand Island undefeated. If Sweet Home defeats Grand Island, you would have Sweet Home and Grand Island at 5-1, and then you'd likely either have Star Point or Kenmore West at 5-1 as well, depending on who wins that game. And then, if they're able to defeat Kenmore East, and then you have Lockport, who's right now 3-2, and they're facing. They have a winnable game tomorrow against Kenmore East. So you could have a very crazy situation. If the craziness doesn't happen, and you get a couple of 4-2 in Grand Island defeats Sweet Home, they would end up at 6-0. And let's say Star Point ends up at 5-1, they're able to defeat West. You would have a 3-way tie between Lockport, Sweet Home, and Kenmore West. Luckily, in that situation, a tie between those teams, they've all faced each other, and I've already done the math from those games. It would be Lockport getting the 3 seed because they would have the best point differential out of those 3 games, And then when this happens, you then, once you figure out the first team, you don't go by point differential to figure out the second one. You go back to head-to-head.
Oh,
so
my
that
goodness.
Sweet Home would defeat Kenmore West. So you have...
did you type all this out to get word for word?
Yes.
Oh my goodness!
I've done this a couple of times. And basically, the point differential and again, this is a three-way tie between Kenmore West, Lockport, Sweet Home. We're not there yet. We're still a week away from that tiebreaker. But just to show you how crazy this is, so Lockport would end up in those three games would have a plus 16 point differential. West would be -1. Sweet Home would be -15. So Lockport would get the 3 seed, but then you go back to head-to-head, and Sweet Home would actually get the 4 seed over Kenmore West, and West would be out.
Oh my goodness! I thought I had more time to go get some water, Francis. So what we're saying now, obviously we do these games, we have no rooting interest. We just really want a good game between two teams. But you're saying if Kenmore West wins tomorrow, things are going to get very interesting.
Kenmore West needs to win in order to really stay in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
And
well, let's talk a little bit about that game. We got the playoff scenarios, which fantastic job. So I just pulled up. We can go both teams. Francis, you tell me what you think about them. We'll start with Kenmore West. It is the game that we're doing at 2 o'clock. Francis will be there with myself. We'll look at the rushing for the Kenmore West team. It's really just Atkins, number 11, and Jason Britton, basically the main two carriers for that team. 17 touchdowns between the two. What can you tell me about those two?
Jermaine Atkins, we talked about him last week. He set a record last week. He started the year at wide receiver. They had no thoughts. Kenmore West had no thoughts about making him their running back. He was actually their leading receiver last year, but I believe they had some injuries, some other things happened, and they decided to throw him at running back, and all of a sudden, he's literally setting records. And they've had some great running backs at Kenmore West, including James Mallory and Terrell Ford, both of whom went on to play at the next level. So that just shows you how good Jermaine Atkins is that his name is now in the record books with those guys.
Yeah, Kenmore West, clearly a running team. You know, they don't have anyone with the stats that we see in the top 10 for rushing. Not even close with, we talk about Fullman from South Park, 722 yards. Neither one of them, but it's a running back by committee with those two. We have 18 total rushing touchdowns. Atkins leads the way in receptions with 14, so it looks like they don't throw the ball a lot. Connor Walker is the quarterback, 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions. Galvin's got 1, and then Atkins threw a touchdown himself. So just a little bit of information from Kenmore West. So it looks like we're going to be seeing a lot of carries on the ground from West.
Yeah, I would expect so as well.
Yeah, let me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the star point. Just an update here from the there's a game that's postponed with West up 21-0 over Amherst with 3:37 left in the first half. That one I think we mentioned. If we didn't, that one's getting postponed to tomorrow. So, Francis, talk to me a little bit about Star Point as I pull this up, and what are your initial thoughts, before I ask you a couple questions?
Well, I think Star Point is a team that likes throwing the football. They've always been, ever since Aaron Chase took over a couple of years ago, they've gone to that spread attack, and they've been throwing it around, and Carson Marcus has done a decent job of carrying the torch that Aaron Chase left for him at Star Point.
Jason Ferguson's leading the team in rushing. He's also got 3 touchdowns. Averages about 5 yards per carry. Along with Nate Lee, looks like he's going to get some carries tomorrow. They've got multiple guys with at least a couple carries. Receiving, Evan Floss leads the way for 5 touchdowns, 25 catches. He is their top-tier receiver.
The Star Point team has really been on a roll all season long. Their only loss was to Grand Island, a 38-0 game. But other than that, they have taken care of business pretty well. They had they've had some close games the last 2, but especially earlier in the year, they had big couple 20-point wins. So I think this is going to be a game. I think you see 2 teams maybe heading in a slightly different directions. Kenmore West started slowly, a little bit on the upswing. Star Point maybe slightly on the downswing, but they'll certainly be out to play tomorrow.
So I'll be on a call tomorrow with Tim Sifa. Francis will be there along for the 2 o'clock kickoff here in WNY Athletics. And it'd be great to see Carson Marcus, the number 7 ranked quarterback, and see what he can do in person. 14 touchdowns on the year. So, Francis, I know it's funny because we go through these stats and like we always talk about how it's going to be easy to read them off, and then end of the night we're like, oh, well, we got to get the receiving and defense in, right? Can't leave out the receiving. We can make it quick. We want it to be a quick night, and look at us go. I guess we're doing good, right?
Yeah.
All right, so receiving, Keegan McInbelly from Orchard Park, number 1, 42 catches for 785, and it's rounded out by Jeremy Yancey from South Park, 26 catches for 377, 5 touchdowns. But the most touchdowns, and I love my touchdowns, 12 touchdowns from Dylan Evans. Tell me about him.
Well, Tom was talking about that Orchard Park passing attack, and they really spread around. You can see on there, I believe it's both in the top 4, the 2 Orchard Park wide receivers.
That's right, Matt. That's right. McInbelly's from Orchard Park, too. So 18 touchdown passes. So you look at Orchard Park, that's Ben Gosella. That would make sense.
Yeah, he is 2 of the top receivers, and that Orchard Park offense is just, it's very special. Right? Now, they need to get a running game going. I think that's what hurt them in a couple of their games this season against Lancaster and Clarence last week. They didn't have quite the running game last week, but if they can get that together, they get some good weather, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the AA playoffs.
And since I live in Lockport, got to give a shout out. I guess I'm a Lockport resident after a year and a half. Like, that's my home. I always say my home is in the South Downs. It's nice to see Lockport's Logan Wentz for receiving in the top 5 with 32 catches for 505. And they've also got a quarterback in the top 4, and Jason Green. We'll go to defense real quick. Lamar Hampton from Burgard, 69 solo tackles, 72 total. He has the most tackles out of anyone in the top 10. Tell me a little bit about Hampton.
I haven't seen Hampton play, but he's been very big for that Burgard team. They've been fighting for a playoff spot. It looks like they'll still get in the playoffs, and they'll need him if they want to make a run in the postseason.
And Bennett has 2 players in the top 6, Rashard Perry, Jamario Tolliver. We'll talk about Perry first. He's got 13 sacks on the year. Now that's a stud, right? To go along with 62 tackles.
Well, just keep this in mind. Not a lot of teams even keep track of stats, let alone have a guy who has 13 of them. That just shows you his power, and if you haven't seen him before, you gotta watch him. It's a special treat to see him bust through the line with his tremendous size.
How about this stat? They have sack yards. So Jamestown and Bennett kept track of sack yards. Bennett has, with Perry, 84 sack yards. And then you got Jamario Tolliver. He's a sophomore. Only 1 sack on the year, 59 solo tackles. A solo tackle, that's you doing the work. That's not a cheap sack where you're helping someone wrap some up. That's, by yourself. London Fletcher used to have a lot of solo tackles. That's impressive for a sophomore playing varsity. We always said in soccer, you're playing sophomore, when you're sophomore playing varsity, it's impressive. But in football, these guys are big. And to have 59 solo tackles is impressive for him.
Certainly.
And anyone else I want to mention here? Well, just rounding out the top 10, Matt Giordani from Allegheny Limestone, who fell tonight. So we got through the receiving, we got through the defense, we got through the passing, we got through the rushing. We did it, Francis. And we talked about some of the weather tonight affected some games. It did affect Clarence and Lancaster as well, along with the West Amherst game.
We don't have a time. I don't have a time, but I just found out that Clarence Lancaster game is officially postponed until tomorrow night. So we'll try to find a time. Maybe we'll get a crew out there. Who knows?
I don't make any promises, but it won't be us. Well, it could be you. Well, it won't be. No, within the time, or we'll probably be in the early day. You're all over the place. When I first met you, I'm like, okay, I got my first broadcast in. He told me he works for Channel 2. And I'm like, I'm never going to see him again. And every time, wherever I'm at, you're here. The man who does everything. He knows so much about high school sports. And I've learned how much you know in the last week. And I'm better informed and appreciative of that. So I have the easy job. I ask you the questions. I'd be the co-host here, but you do all the work, and I kind of fill in the gaps. So impressive, young man.
And I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you for filling in the gaps. It helps quite a bit.
Well, I will say I'm disappointed next week. So we have a flag football team who has a night game in 2 weeks. The Raiders, who are 4-0, and regardless of the record, it's such a great group of kids. I'd love them if we were 0-4 doesn't matter. They're just good, hardworking kids. So we do have a night game in 2 weeks, and I'm thrilled for all these kids who get to play under the lights. They're able to do it because they have, in Hamburg, extra lights from the baseball diamond. So all 19 or 18 teams get to be there and experience it. And I'll tell you, we've done it twice, and now that everyone can do it, it is like no other. The kids light up, and they love it. It doesn't matter each week who wins or not, but especially that night, it's all about just playing into the lights. So we have that in 2 weeks. We've got to practice next week. So these last 2 weeks being in here, I've had so much fun. I learned a lot about high school football from you, and I can't wait for next year because I really want to work around my schedule to be here with you each week.
That's great to hear. All right, remember, we have 2 big games on the docket tomorrow. Starts at 10 o'clock. It's Alameda at Maritime, B North Division on the line. And again, 2 o'clock, Joe's going to be on the call. It's going to be Star Point at Kenmore West. That's all we have for tonight. Thank you to our sponsors, especially Western New York Immediate Care and Howard Hanna. You are watching the Friday Night Final Drive right here on Western New York Athletics.